Hey, my name's Joe Dyer. I'm the executive pastor at Corinth Reformed Church in Byron Center, Michigan. And I'm so excited to be talking to you today on this Whiteboard Wednesday video, talk to you a little bit about culture, specifically workplace culture, and what does it mean in a church context. So really the metaphor that I want to hit on today is that culture is like a garden. So culture equals cultivate. So what I want you to ask yourself in your churches is, what kind of culture do you have? What kind of garden do you have? Do you have a garden that is like we do at Corinth Reformed Church, a old growth garden, 125-year-old church. It's got some tall trees. It's got some budding undergrowth. There's things that you can always work on in a garden. You can weed out some stuff. But I want to ask you, what is your garden? What does your garden look like? Or maybe it's a new church plant. Is the soil ready? There's not a lot of things growing, but you've planted good seed, and you're excited to see how God uses that garden. Maybe it's somewhere in between. You have some weeds. Maybe you need to do a little bit of pruning, but you know that there's going to be some fruit that comes out of that garden. And really, culture equals cultivate. It comes right from that word. And culture is a garden that constantly needs to be tended. Something is always growing in a garden. So if you, like me, or you really like vegetables, planting vegetables and fruit out in the yard, and one thing that any gardener knows is that you will always get weeds. It's not hard to grow weeds in a garden, but it is hard to have seed that is in good soil and produces a crop. So if we don't do anything in our church and workplace culture, we're going to get weeds out of it, and that's just the nature. It's nature's law that we're going to get weeds. What we want to try to do is cultivate a garden to get fruit. And Jesus talks about this in the parable of the barren fig tree. He says there's a fig tree; it's not producing any fruit, and the gardener says to him, "Hey, give me a few more years with it. Let me prune it back. Let me prune the branches back. Set some fertilizer around it. Let's see if we get some good fruit." He also talks about it in the parable of the soils. A seed planted in good soil produces a fruit, a crop, 100 times what the seed was. So culture is kind of like that. Culture is always growing. You have to weed and harvest and prune, but you also have to enjoy the fruit when the garden produces fruit. So that's all the metaphor, but really, what is culture? Workplace culture, especially if you're a leader, a pastor, a director in a church, you have a workplace culture on your staff that's going to overflow to the congregation. And workplace culture really is defined by 3 B's. By belief, by behavior, and then a sense of belonging. So first, belief, the first B. Belief is exactly what you think it would be. It's what, as a culture, do you value? What is your why? What do you believe? Why do you believe it? Out of your beliefs, what you value, you start to get some behaviors, some common behaviors in a culture that's centered around those beliefs. And then belonging. When you have a strong set of beliefs, you have a common set of behaviors that go to those beliefs, then it creates a sense of belonging on a team, on a family. There's a reason that when we talk about a church family or a workplace team, it's because you belong to something. And then really when we talk about culture will eat up a strategy for breakfast. You've probably heard that term before. Not only will it eat it up, but it'll also eat up any mission, vision, and values if you don't have a good, healthy culture. So I do think it's important to talk a little bit about your church's mission, vision, and values. So mission, the mission of every true church, is really the great co-mission of Matthew 28, to go and make disciples. So that's first, is mission. What is your mission? If you're a true church of Jesus Christ, it's the great co-mission. But here's where it gets a little bit more specific, is what is your vision? Now, 2 things. I don't know your vision for 2 reasons. Number 1, it's probably too complicated, has too many words in it, and I won't be able to remember it even if I tried. The second reason I don't know it is because it's contextual. Vision is contextual. So your vision is going to be different than Corinth's vision. The vision upholds the mission, the Great Commission. This is how you contextualize your call to ministry, your call in that corner of the kingdom. So you need to define what that is. At Corinth, ours is being a church that's thirsty, satisfied, and overflowing. So everything that we do, we put it through those filters of vision. Is it something that relates to being thirsty? Is it something that relates to being satisfied in the Lord? Is it something that leads to overflow in the community? And then finally, values. So values are a combination of belief and behavior. So values are really, what do we believe collectively, and then how are we going to behave in response? So at Corinth, we have 5 values, and I'll just kind of put a letter for each of them. Authenticity, relationship, diversity, transformation, and expectation. As we go and strategic plan and put tactical plans together, we talk through thirsty, satisfied, and overflowing, but then our beliefs and behaviors, like authenticity and relationship, I reference these every single day in my job as executive pastor with our staff, because I want them to know that we have beliefs and behaviors that we're living into, like authenticity and relationship. Finally, coming back to culture, what does this have to do with culture? There are really 3 takeaways for a pastor, a director, a ministry team lead to take away from what is culture as a garden, what are the seeds of culture, and how can I work on both of those together? So if this is the garden, these are the seeds, what do I have to do to implement and to create a healthy workplace culture that's going to overflow to the congregation, but it's also going to overflow to the world. So there are 3 no's that you need to know about taking and creating a good, healthy garden for your workplace culture, and then putting the seeds of mission, vision, and values in there. And the first no is know the garden. Know the garden. Know the garden and know your soil. Is it healthy? Is it overgrown? Is it an older garden? Do you have to pull some weeds? Know your garden and your soil. You have to be able to look at what God has given you, the people God has given you, and ask yourself the question of, do I need pruning? Do I need to maybe enjoy some of the fruit of the culture that has been worked on for years and years and years? So know your garden, know your soil. The second one is know your garden plan. So know your plan and lead with why. So there's a great video, maybe you've seen it, with Simon Sinek about leading with why. And knowing your plan is really knowing where we're going in the culture with the seeds that you've been given. So over here, I might want to plant some cucumbers. Over here, I might want to plant maybe some tomatoes. And I know they don't grow the same, and I know I have to rotate my crops. Same thing is over here, I can't really plant anything. There's a big, healthy tree with deep roots that I don't want to get in the way of. And really, knowing the plan and leading with why. The why is the commission. The vision is the context for why, and then the values communicate everything that you need to know about the culture. And then the third no, the final no for today, is no, it's not just words on a wall. So when you hear workplace culture, maybe you've heard it in the greater culture, you think, I know what culture is. Culture is ping pong tables and beanbag chairs. I can tell you that we could put all the ping pong tables and all the beanbag chairs and all the words on the wall, including mission, vision, and values. That's not going to create a healthy workplace culture. Culture is much, much deeper than that. Culture, like a garden, takes a lot of work. It takes good soil, it takes good seed, and it takes a lot of work daily tending it. So you have to ask yourself the question, who are my cultivators? Who are the people in my workplace culture that are cultivating the garden of culture? And the answer is everybody. And if you have somebody that's not taking part in the cultivation, by creating a good garden, you're going to see that portion of that garden get a lot of weeds in it. It's going to be very clear that nobody's cultivating it. So just to wrap up, culture, like a garden, you have to have cultivators. Culture is made up of beliefs, behaviors, and belonging. It's how we get things done. We have mission, vision, values as the seeds. What is your vision? I just want to dwell on that for a second. Make it simple, make it easy to remember, and make it contextual. I can't take Corinth's culture and bring it to your church, and you can't do the same because it's different. It's a different congregation. It's a different vision. And then know the garden, know your plan, know it's not just words. That's workplace culture and how it overflows to the church. Thanks.